Hello there, I'm Benjinator12, and today we're going to be looking at the My Little Pony Guardians of Harmony Princess Twilight Sparkle versus Changeling. Now, this is a figure that I've actually eagerly anticipated for a long time. I always thought that with the popularity of My Little Pony, they ought to have some kind of collector's style, show accurate, articulated action figure to represent them instead of the standard comb the doll's hair kind of figure. And now they do, or they announced this way earlier this year, maybe the New York Toy Show or something, and there was a lot of buzz, a lot of journalists covered it. It was a big deal. But then it was kind of radio silence, and I never managed to know why. I thought, when are these coming out? There weren't clear answers. They came available online, but I was still looking around for them in stores, and the stores in my area simply never stocked them. So now I decided to break down and buy one online because it's pretty evident that they weren't coming into stores, and I just wanted to see what they were like. So these are my impressions on the this really kind of bold and interesting step that Hasbro has taken to include some of its older fan base. Now, I knew if I was only going to get one figure, it would have to be Twilight Sparkle, because she's the main character and probably one of my favorite characters in the show. Now, currently, as far as I'm aware, she's only available in a 2-pack with the Changeling, and is not available on her own like some of the other characters are. Before we get into the figure itself, I'm going to need to take a moment and talk about this packaging. This packaging right here. There it is. Let's get it in frame. This packaging looks fine. This is absolutely horrible packaging, and I'm going to show you why. Don't mind the mess. Look at this. This is the sort of bubble they pack it in, and it's really terrible. There aren't any twist ties. I thought for sure these were going to use twist ties to secure them in there. Instead, they use all the points, the wings, the horns of the characters, and they force them through little holes in there that secures them in. There's almost no way to remove the... You really have to pull and pull to get these guys out of the packaging. It's kind of awful, and the whole time I was doing it, I was concerned, am I going to break the figure? Am I going to stress the plastic? I didn't think it was going to be, a weak or brittle plastic. I was just concerned because there was no easy way to get these guys out, and I didn't want to, pop any things off the joints. So, yeah. They really need to, maybe it's just because they're new at doing this, but they really need to change up their style of packaging. I just wanted to get that out of the way because that was a early on disappointment. Alright, so with the packaging out of the way, here's what you get inside the box. You get Twilight Sparkle, the Changeling, a spear, and this little badge thing, which the box shows that you can flip out this tab on the back and, connect it to your buttons, wear it on your shirt. I don't know if I do it, but it is cool. It's like a militarization of the Twilight Sparkle cutie mark design. It looks like it's the Twilight Sparkle Air Force or something. That's just a sticker on gold plastic there. Neat design, but I really don't think I'd wear it. And I don't think there's any way you can attach it to the toy. Let me check here. Is that what this is for? Oh, it is. There you go. You can attach it to the toy. Wonders, I tell you. Wonders. We're probably not going to be talking about the badge for the rest of this. So let's get into the figures themselves. That's what we're here for. And we'll start with Twilight. So, as you can see here, this is a much more show-accurate representation of Twilight than we've seen in other figures, minus the armor, but we'll get to that later. The coloration is fairly show-accurate, but as you can even see on the box, her actual, this lavender pinkish plastic. It's really more of a lavender in the show. It just needs a touch more blue in it to be really show accurate. Let's see here. Her head, her hair, her mane here is molded in a dark purple plastic, as is her tail. And the stripes running over there and on the head are paint. Her eyes, if you can see, let me zoom it in there. The eyes are tampographed on there. They're a tampo. And then there's all this gold plastic from the armor. Cutie mark is also tampographed on there, if you can see it under there. And then there's all the gold plastic from the armor. So the wings are made of a kind of softer plastic that can bend just a teeny bit, not a whole lot. There's no paint on the teeth. If you look here, she's got this scowling face, which I'm kind of disappointed in. It's kind of like a American box art Kirby effect, where in order to prove that these were real action figures, Hasbro decided, okay, she's got to look as mean as possible, and it looks kind of, I don't know, I don't feel like that fits with her character very well. But what's even worse is that it's not painted. Her teeth are purple. That can be fixed. I'm going to fix it with a Gundam marker, a white Gundam marker, just run over that and give her some white teeth. But for people, on the box it's painted. Again, it looks fine on the box, but it's not in the figure, which is kind of a letdown. And for people who don't have figure modifying skills like I have, that's probably, that's going to be a turnoff. It's going to be a turnoff. So Twilight has a few action gimmicks, most of which are related to the armor, actually all of them. As you can see, these are the quote-unquote capture wings. And they do kind of work as advertised. As you can see here, they open up. If you push these big parts, which are tabs, they're on a hinge there that allows them to open up. And it's a spring-loaded hinge. They do snap back together. The actual design of them is, I mean, they're weird and excessive on top of a figure that you just want to represent Twilight Sparkle, but really, they're not so bad. They've actually got a little bit of molded in detail right there. As you can see, they've got a star that's painted in. They're really not so bad, but the important thing is that they're removable. Now, removing these is just kind of terrible to accomplish, but I'm going to try to prove this. You kind of have to get her arms out of the way, and there's a little latch right on that star underneath it that you undo. You peel it apart like that. And then you open these up beyond her forelegs, and then it just sort of splits down the middle. I'll set her over there. As you see, it just splits down the middle using a set of hinges, and then pegs together up here. So that's out of the way. Let's look at Twi herself. There she is with that big bulky armor off. And as you can see, the proportions are fairly show accurate. Maybe they seem a little more slender in the show. These are just a little stockier, a little closer towards the older style of MLP toys. But not bad, not bad. These shoes also are removable, which is nice. So let's pop them off. They go on whatever foot you want. I don't think there's a specified order. I've had no harm done in that. And as you see, we're starting to free her up here. And as you can see, this is a fairly show-accurate alicorn form Twilight, straight out of the show. You know, that looks pretty right, except for her nasty scowl, which she doesn't wear most of the time. But this is the real selling point for me. These wings are mounted on ball joints. My left one here is very loose, but you can pop them right off. And I'm just going to do that. 1, 2. And now you have like a season 1 and 2 Twilight. You know, before they like ruined the show. And it's it's pretty solid. This is kind of what I wanted out of it. And it really gives it to you there. So let's move on to the Changeling. We're going to do a really quick side-by-side shot here, and he'll fall onto his face. He's not quite as stable as she is, and that's because of his articulation. We'll get to that later. But as you can see, he's around the exact same size as her and is a little thinner. He's got a slightly smaller head because he doesn't have a mane and stuff going on. But he is quite a different figure, and let's get her out of here to focus on him. So he's in a dark like matte gray. It's not quite a black. It's a dark matte gray. It looks darker on film than it does in real life. He's, I kind of wish this matte gray wasn't a matte. It was, gosh, see, you look at this. He doesn't stand very well. I wish it was glossier, because on the box art, they're really, if I get that in there, they're really playing up how the changelings are shiny. They're bug-like, a carapace going on. And that would have really helped set him apart from Twilight, look really different and alien. I mean, that's definitely what they're going for here, is that xenomorph look. And it's not really coming through. I feel like that would have been a bold choice to do it in a gloss plastic. But as you can see, it's somewhat similar to the Twilight mold, but not quite. It's got some differences. As you can see, it's got the holes molded straight through the legs, and it's got some of that on every leg. It's got a weird different tail, and it's got all this junk on his head, which is different. The different ears, the different horn, the mohawk. It's not really as visually stunning as I wish it is. Like this part here, as you can kind of see it on the video, there's a patch that's painted in blue. That's meant to represent the shell, and because it's done in this matte plastic again, you can't tell that there's anything different going on there. It just sort of blends in and looks really weird. It looks more like a saddle than it does a shell. He's got some real imperfections on him as opposed to Twilight. As you can see, he's got a nub mark right there. He's got a big gash out of his neck right there, and really nasty plastic gashes right there. So imperfections, and they're showing up a lot, I assume, because of the dark plastic. That's probably the biggest factor in it. Now, as you can see with, gosh, he's gonna fall over there again. He's just not having a good time. As you see on the face, the eyes are painted in instead of tampoed like Twilight, and his teeth are painted in also, which that's kind of upsetting. He gets paint on his teeth, but Twilight doesn't. Overall, the look of this figure is kind of lacking. I feel it could have been more aggressive. It looks too mundane. They should have done a more unique head sculpt for it, maybe with like a biting kind of thing, and they could have had an even skinnier, more emaciated looking torso. That I feel like would have gone a long way in making this accessory really pretty, and here it just looks kind of awkward. So he's lame, but we'll talk more about him later. Now it's time to get into the main selling point of these figures, which is their articulation, and their articulation as a conventional action figure. So starting off with the head, the neck is on a hinge swivel. As you can see, it's cut all the way down through here, and which allows her to move her head all the way forward, all the way up, and it turns on a hinge 360 degrees for some exorcist action. But there is no separate joint at the head itself, which I'm kind of disappointed. They could have put a ball joint in there, and that would have allowed for some really different, more expressive poses, I feel. And they didn't do that. But on the other hand, they're trying to keep costs down, and Hasbro, they're producing volume. They're not, like little collector's figures. This is meant to be a volume release, even if they haven't gotten it into stores where I live. These hinge swivels are present throughout the arm. There's one at the upper foreleg. I guess it's really a leg instead of an arm. The upper foreleg, which lets it go forwards and backwards, but also in and out. And you can do both at the same time, of course. And then another one at the knee, which bends forward and all the way backward, just like it does in the show. Their bodies have no real anatomy, so they can do all this, and that's cool that they actually put the effort into the figure to make that work. It actually even looks natural both ways. It looks natural bending this direction as well as this direction because of the curve in that hinge. And of course, it can also, once it's bent, you can swivel it under there as well for some weirder, like, low stances that look kind of goofy. But they do those in the show, and you can actually replicate it with this toy. Now, the hind legs are just on a swivel. They don't have any exciting articulation. I kind of wish they had done that as a ball joint. That way you get at least a little bit of in and out. But you do get all the range there. There is a slight tilt. If you want, you can have her sitting down like they do often in the show. But, yeah, could have been better, but it is functional. And still, with the forelegs, you're getting way more articulation than you would in a standard MLP figure. And, of course, the tail is on a ball joint, just like the wings, which I'll bring back in here just to demonstrate really quickly to you the kind of range of motion that a wing can have. You can go back about this far, forwards about this far, and wiggle in and out for some flapping, which is going to be more important on your Rainbow Dash, in my opinion, than Twilight Sparkle, who shouldn't have ever gotten wings. But that's an argument for another time, shall we? So there's what the articulation you kind of expect from all of the figures in the line. They're using a base body similar to this for the mainline figures. Now, the Changeling, as you may have seen earlier, has different articulation in his forelegs. His forelegs have only one hinge swivel, so they can go forward and backward and in and out, but not any more than that. They can't bend in the middle. As for the rest of the body, the legs are the same. They have the hind legs have the same single hinge. The wings have the same ball joint. The tail, the same ball joint. And the neck, the same hinge swivel. 360 exorcist action. So, do these figures live up to expectations? It's a difficult question to answer. In the end, the value proposition. Do they live up to my expectations? Well, yes and no. In concept, they're exactly what I wanted. They are articulated, show-accurate representations of the characters. But in execution, I'd say they're just adequate. They could have been better. As you can see, there's a lot of, small issues where I said they could do better. And, of course, there's some QC on my Changeling. But for what they are, for the price you get them at, around, $15 for these two, I think they're delivering. They're delivering what I wanted, even if it's not, absolutely perfect, everything I wanted. They're pretty solid. They're stable, except for this guy, who's just a freaking domino. Let's get him out of here. He's lame. Would I have paid, $15 for just Twilight like this? Well, I don't know. I really wanted this figure in my collection, whether it was good or not. But for an overall value proposition, these are okay. They're okay. And if your kid likes, the My Little Pony characters and wants a representation of how they are in the show instead of with combable hair, this really isn't a bad way to go. But for people like me who have been spoiled with high-end collectibles, it is kind of a letdown in some regards. But, how much more could I have really asked? This is, Hasbro's first time trying this with their MLP figures. And I think for a freshman effort, I think they've done pretty good. Could have been better, but pretty good. So in the end, that's my verdict. Flawed, but still enjoyable. So there you have it. I'm Benjinator12, and I'll see you guys later with more reviews. Thanks for your time.